I got a gun. Damn. That's 2DMX. What are you doing?
Hello, welcome back to Ycft. We have just got out of seeing The Blackening, directed by Tim Story. And who wrote this one?
It's two people, Tracy Oliver and Dwayne Perkins. And Dwayne Perkins also stars in the movie as well.
Yeah, he's very particularly funny in this film.
Yeah, yeah.
So, a quick synopsis. Now, over in the UK, we have only just got this as a release a couple of days ago, but I think this did come out in America a couple of months ago.
Right, okay.
But we didn't really hear that much hype over it. I heard some good reviews, and it is about a group of black friends who obviously been friends for a very long time or went to school together, and they are spending the weekend, or the Juneteenth, so that makes this a new holiday slasher, which is cool. We've not had one of them in a while.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to spend the weekend at this, what is essentially a cabin in the woods.
It is a cabin in the woods.
A night of partying, drinking,
and games.
Doing drugs and games, when they are set upon by a murderous, racist board game that is interactive that will result in the death of one or more of the group if they do not play along. The game is like a racist Jumanji.
It is actually, that's exactly what I was thinking when I was watching it too.
With a little bit of Saw and Hostel.
A little bit of Saw, maybe like a little bit of Monopoly, just based on the look of the game as well. But yeah, it is basically like a racist Jumanji.
Yeah. So we are not the demographic for this
We
film.
are not the demographic for this film. No, not
but
at all.
I had a ton of fun.
Oh, same. There were a lot of moments where we both laughed out loud. The whole screening laughed out loud at a lot of parts, which was, that's fun.
Yeah. Not all the comedy landed.
Not for me personally, it didn't. Like, there were a couple of jokes I just thought, oh god, okay, like I know what they were trying to do, and I know like the tone that they were going for there, but I didn't. Sometimes the dialogue just didn't quite get there for me.
But when the jokes landed, they really landed and they hit hard.
Yeah. And I think it's important to say, it probably goes without saying to anyone who's seen the trailer or knows anything about this movie, is that, this is a movie where the characters are very, very modern, like obviously very self-aware. They are aware of horror movies. They are aware of Black history, especially Black history in films. And all of that kind of plays into the dialogue and, like 90% of the jokes as well. So the humour, when it does land, oh my god, it is hysterical.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
It's very much a horror comedy. The trailer gives off scary movie vibes, but it is probably more Scream-esque.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not as dark as Scream, I would say. Scream, has some legitimately, like, disturbing scenes and disturbing kills. This is not on that level.
Because it's not a scary film, this one.
It's not a scary film.
If you've watched a number of horror films, it is quite predictable where it's going to go. Very early on, you can kind of guess what is going on.
I think we both sort of guessed, didn't we? At least in part, sort of who was the bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was still a very fun ride.
It was a very enjoyable film. I enjoyed a lot of the characters. I think something that seems to be quite rare, and especially ensemble films, is most ensemble films still has a central character who's the main character. And I couldn't really tell you who the main character is. The group themselves are the main character.
Yeah, collectively.
Yeah, collectively. And weirdly with him, this is usually a critique when every member is the quirky one. Most of them are quite quirky, but in this it just kind of works.
Yeah.
It's like they're a really enjoyable cast of characters, well performed, very funny. This is a very funny film. My only other real downside to it, other than it being a bit predictable, is some scenes are quite dark, as in they are lit quite dark. There's certain sequences where I don't think you could watch this at home during the day with the lights on, because I just don't think you'd be able to see what's going on. I think just a couple of stylistic choices there that made it difficult, even in the cinema, to kind of see what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there were a couple of scenes. It was a little bit hard to see, and also this movie is set over the course of one night. So we start the movie in the early evening when people are arriving, and then we end the movie the next day, like dawn the next day. So there's a lot of scenes shot at night time, which were the scenes outside especially were a little bit dark.
Yeah, and this type of film, the lights have to go out.
Oh, yeah.
It still had a couple of... We're not going to spoil the film.
No, it's way too early for that.
Way too early for that, at least for us over in the UK. But it did some really interesting things that caught me off guard, which I really quite liked. I think you kind of said when we came out, arguably this is probably one of the most important films to come out this year.
Yeah.
Just because of the subject matter, and it's not just about black people's history with movies, it's the same with TV, their history in general, and what does it mean to be black
Yes.
is a big topic throughout it, and just a lot of really important conversations had throughout the film that we found really interesting.
Oh yeah, totally. Like this is a movie that, you know, absolutely pulls apart, you know, traditional horror movie tropes, and especially, you know, where black characters have traditionally, what their part has been in horror films in the past. I mean, that the tagline, you know, brilliantly is "We can't all die first," and obviously
Should have been the name of the film.
But obviously that is alluding to, you know, the well-known trope that black characters do not tend to do well in horrors. They do not last long.
Especially in the height of slashers.
Oh, absolutely. But, you know, it's not just about horror movie tropes and characters, you know, understanding the horror tropes. It is about ethnic stereotypes as well. And yeah, you know, the characters are very much aware of black history, like we say, and it's not just pulling apart the genre. It is also, you know, it touches on some really kind of poignant things, and especially, you know, quite recent historical things as well.
Yeah.
You know, like
and social.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel that the characters were almost tested on their own knowledge of black history?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, again, obviously no spoilers, but one of the themes of the film, like one of the biggest questions that crops up in the game is, who is the blackest? Who is the blackest character among them? And, you know, even the characters themselves question what the hell that even means. You know, it's a subjective question. There's no real answer to it, and yet it crops up time and time again. And that was really interesting to see, you know, the characters' opinions on that. Like, amidst all the humor and like all the you know, like the campiness and the ridiculousness of the situation, there was one particular kind of poignant moment, and I pointed it out to you. Is there's a scene involving a white park ranger who's aware of, you know, the characters in the cabin, and there's a moment in the movie where he asks and tells the character, you know, you need to trust me, you got to trust me. And she just completely deadpans and looks at him dead in the eyes and says, no, we don't. No, we don't. That especially, just given the climate, given everything that's happened in the
last couple of years.
Last couple of years alone, my God, that line, you know, that means something. And it's like one of those moments, you know, potentially a bit of a throwaway scene in a movie, but I don't know, like that was one moment that really did stand out to me. You know, just that line of no, we don't at all. You know, you have not earned the right to say that. It was a really enjoyable movie. You know, I would recommend it. I would watch it again. Yeah, I some of the humor didn't land, like I said. Some of the jokes, even, you know, given the fact that it is basically a social commentary. Like I said, you know, like I know what the jokes were trying to do. I just don't feel like they were kind of done in a bit of a clunky way, and like a bit of a, I don't know, quite trite, like not very organically said or organically delivered. But otherwise, it is a really fun ride.
Every person in that theatre at some point burst out laughing.
Oh, totally.
When a particularly good joke landed and caught them completely off guard. That I really enjoyed. And I think a lot of that is down to the performance. The fact that I think the writers have a stand-up background. There was a lot of ad-libbing on set.
Yeah.
So a lot of it feels very natural.
Yeah, absolutely. We rewatched Horror Noir, didn't we, recently, which is a brilliant documentary about the horror movie, black people in horror movies. You know, just talking about their roles in films over the years, and they interviewed Jordan Peele for it. Obviously, you know, talking about Get Out, and there was something that he said about that film that he made Get Out for black audiences. And he was like, you know, don't get me wrong, obviously any other, you know, ethnicity can go and enjoy the movie, and they should, but primarily he made it for black audiences. And in his head, he felt like if black people didn't enjoy his film or they didn't get the film, then he had failed in his own, like, personal mission of what the film was about. And I kind of feel like The Blackening is in a similar vein of that. You know, this is a film made by black people for black people.
I think the fact that it's set on Juneteenth.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. So it's nice to see like a lot of things being reclaimed, and I don't know if that's the right phrase necessarily, but the way these characters interact together, the affection that they have for each other, the way that they support each other. I don't know, it was actually quite... it was just a fun ride, and it did do away with a lot of the tropes too. Like, these are characters that are fighting back, but also like retaining a lot of their humor throughout the whole thing. So
yeah, I do also think you're saying it moves away from tropes. I think in a lot of ways, in regards to slashers, did fall into a lot of the tropes, and I think that's what leans into the film being a bit predictable. I think this would be a very fun film to watch with people, and
yeah,
I'll 100% watch it again, just because I had a lot of enjoyment. I would love to see bloopers from this.
Yeah. Well, apparently we did a little bit of research as soon as we came out of the cinema, and a lot of the dialogue was improvised as well. So yeah, especially I want to see the bloopers now, like how different the takes were. I would recommend it. I thought it was pretty fun, and I do actually think it is quite a seminal film. Get Out was obviously very famous when that came out, but we're going back to 2016, and the world is a very different place to how it is now than when it was in 2016. Things have happened, guys.
There are certain lines of dialogue that I think in a few years' time will date this film as a film that came out in 2023. Go check it out while it's in cinemas, guys. Obviously in the UK, also if any to our American audiences, it's probably on demand by this point. I don't know if it's still in the theaters, but yep, in the UK, go give it a watch. I think you'll have a ton of fun with it, and that's ultimately what this film is. It's fun, but you'll probably learn something as well. I liked going into a comedic film and actually laughing at the bits I'm supposed to laugh at.
And in unison with the rest of the audience.
Yeah,
as well.
that made it a good cinema experience.
Yeah.
The Blackening. Go check it out, and we will see you for our regularly scheduled programming on Thursday.
Bye.